Have you ever stared at your own reflection and wondered if your life was supposed to mean something more? Not just bills and bad days, not just getting by, but rising above. If you've ever felt like you were built for something greater, but just haven't seen it yet, then this story is for you. In a small Rust Belt town in Ohio, where factories used to hum, but now sat silent and rusting, there lived a kid named Eli No Silver Spoon. No big dreams handed down from successful parents, just a mother who worked 2 jobs and a father who left when Eli was 6. Every morning before sunrise, Eli would deliver newspapers on his bike. He hated the cold, he hated the silence, but he loved the feeling of earning his own money, even if it was only $10 a week at school. Eli blended in, not a top student, not a star athlete, but there was something in him, something not even he could see yet. He had this strange habit of observing people. He'd watch how the math teacher nervously fixed his glasses every time someone answered wrong, or how the janitor always paused by the gym doors like he wanted to step in and shoot a basket. Eli noticed. He paid attention because deep down he wanted to understand people. He wanted to matter to them. But mattering doesn't come easy when your life is filled with noise you didn't choose, when your lights flicker because the power bill is late again, when your stomach growls in the cafeteria line and you lie and say you're not hungry, when every dream seems out of reach because reality keeps pulling you down. One night, something changed. Eli was walking home from the library. It had been a rough day. His mom had come home exhausted and barely spoke. He failed his English test, and he felt invisible. But as he walked past a community center, he heard shouting, not the bad kind, the kind filled with energy, motivation, power. He peeked through the window. There was a man on stage. No mic, just voice. He was giving a talk about overcoming pain. He said, something that stuck in Eli's brain like a splinter. He said, your background doesn't define your ceiling. It defines your foundation. And your foundation is built to carry the weight of greatness. Eli froze. That sentence punched him in the chest. He had never thought of his pain as strength, only as chains. He started showing up to those weekly talks. He'd sit in the back. No one noticed him, but every week he soaked up the words like medicine. He began to believe maybe he could build something. Out of the pieces of his broken life, senior year came and went. No scholarships, no college offers, just a part-time job at a gas station and lots of doubts. But something inside him had changed. He started writing late at night when his shift was over. He'd pour his thoughts into a beat-up notebook. He wrote about the janitor who wanted to shoot hoops, the teacher hiding his nerves, his mom's tired eyes that still glowed with love, stories about pain, about ordinary people who were extraordinary because they kept going. One day, while scrolling on his cracked phone, Eli saw a post from a storytelling podcast that accepted listener submissions. He almost skipped it. He didn't think his writing was good enough. But that voice from the community center echoed in his head again. Your foundation is built to carry greatness. So he sent one in. Didn't think about it, just sent it. Weeks passed. He forgot about it. Then one morning, his phone buzzed with a strange number. He let it ring, but then it buzzed again and again. He picked up a woman's voice, warm, professional. She said, Eli, we loved your story. We want to feature it in our next episode. And if you're open to it, we'd like to bring you on as a contributor. He dropped the phone to his knees, hit the kitchen floor. He wasn't sure if he was laughing or crying. Maybe both. That single episode went viral. Thousands of people messaged saying they saw themselves in his words. The janitor who listened while cleaning floors, the single mom working night shifts, the teenager who felt invisible to Eli became a regular contributor, then a guest speaker, then a published author. Years later, he stood on the same stage at that community center, looking out at a new group of lost kids, and he said, I used to think I was just surviving. Now I know I was building, and if you're still in the dark, it just means your light hasn't turned on yet. So never confuse your silence for failure. Sometimes it's just preparation. Never confuse your pain for weakness. Sometimes it's your hidden strength, because success isn't about climbing the tallest mountain. It's about rising 1 inch higher every day, even when no one is watching, even when no one claps, even when you feel like quitting. You don't stop, because your time is coming, and when it does, you'll realize you are never falling behind. You were simply gathering power for your rise. Eli's life changed, but not in the way fairy tales promise. It wasn't overnight fame or instant money. It was harder than that, lonelier. Because when you start rising, not everyone claps. Some stay silent, some get distant. Some who used to laugh with you now whisper behind your back. And Eli had to face that truth fast. He got his first check from the podcast, enough to pay off a few bills, fix the broken window in their apartment, take his mom to dinner for the first time in years. But success didn't erase the past, and it sure didn't protect him from what came next. That podcast was bought by a media company, bigger platform, more listeners, more pressure. They assigned Eli, a producer, smooth guy, fast-talking, wanted Eli to spice up his stories, add drama, change endings, make it trend. Eli refused. He said, these stories are real. They're not clickbait. They're about people like me, who wake up every day feeling like they're drowning and still show up. The producer didn't like that. Meetings got colder. Emails got shorter. Then one day they dropped in, no warning, no explanation. Just we're going in a different direction. And just like that, he was back in his apartment. Same old couch. Same old doubt. He stared at the wall for hours. The silence this time hurt more, because he had tasted what it felt like to matter. And now it was gone. But sometimes the fall is what sharpens the blade. Eli went back to his notebook, this time with fire. He wrote not to be accepted, but to be heard. Raw, unfiltered stories that made people uncomfortable, stories no one wanted to say out loud. Instead of waiting for someone to publish him, he recorded it himself. On an old mic he bought off Craigslist, he edited with free software, posted it on a tiny YouTube channel he named Voices from the Ground. The first episode got 42 views. The second got 29, but the third, a story about a homeless veteran who once taught poetry in schools. It hit something. Comments poured in, people crying, sharing, thanking him. By episode 7, he had 10,000 subscribers. By episode 15, he was interviewed by a national news outlet, and one night at 2 a.m. he got a call from a woman with a calm voice and tired words. She said, my brother was the veteran you talked about. I never knew his story until your episode. You gave him his voice back. Thank you. Eli hung up and cried, because it was no longer about success. It was about truth. Years passed. His platform grew. He started a nonprofit for unheard storytellers, people from shelters, rehab centers, youth prisons. He gave them notebooks, mics, and one message: your voice is not a whisper, it's a roar. Waiting to rise. One day at a small college in North Carolina, a professor invited Eli to speak to students about narrative power, and in the front row was a kid, glasses, quiet, fidgeting with his pen. Afterward, the kid walked up and said, Mr. Eli, listen to every episode. I was going to quit school, but your stories made me stay. You helped me believe I had a voice too. Eli didn't know what to say. He just hugged him, because he knew that kid. He had been that kid. What people don't see in success stories is the grind that never ends. The nights you sit alone wondering if you're still on the right path. The temptation to give people what they want instead of what they need. But Eli chose truth over trend. He chose impact over applause, and slowly, surely, the world responded. A publisher offered him a book deal. He wrote it in 6 months. It wasn't just a book. It was a battle cry called Built from the Broken. When it launched, it didn't hit #1. It didn't make every bestseller list, but it made it to the hands of people who needed it most. Truck drivers, nurses, factory workers, single dads, foster kids. They wrote letters, emails, voice messages. One man said, I was going to take my life. Then I heard your story, and I didn't and. But that was worth more than 1,000,000 streams. Eli kept going, not because it was easy, but because he now knew. Purpose is the only fuel that doesn't run out, because when you live for truth, no one can cancel your mission. Not a boss, not an algorithm, not rejection. And the most powerful part of his journey was realizing that the story was never really about him. It was about every person watching from the shadows, waiting to hear someone say, I see you. You matter. You're not alone. You are not. Your pain. You are not your past. You are not your lowest moment. You are what you choose to become after. You are still becoming. Eli's name started appearing in places he never imagined: magazine interviews, university panels, once even on a billboard in Times Square. But none of it changed the way he spoke, the way he listened, the way he still returned to that community center every month to remind himself of where it all began. He knew the world liked shiny stories, the kind with trophies and photo ops, but he wasn't chasing spotlight. He was chasing connection. And then came the hardest test of all: his mother, his anchor. His first inspiration fell sick. Doctors said it was late. Treatment might buy time, but not forever. Eli paused everything: podcast, books, talks. He sat by her hospital bed every night, holding her hand, reading her the same stories she once inspired. One night, in the dim light of that cold hospital room, she smiled through her pain and whispered, You always made something out of nothing, Eli. Even when all we had was silence, you gave it meaning. That was the last full sentence she ever spoke. She passed peacefully 2 weeks later, and the world suddenly felt empty again. Eli disappeared for a while. No new content, no appearances, just silence. People speculated, where did he go? Is he done? Did he quit? But grief doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't. Follow your schedule. And Eli let it break him, because he believed healing isn't about hiding pain. It's about honoring it. And when he returned with something new: a video. Black and white, no music, just his voice. He told the story of it. His mother, the weight she carried, the dreams she buried, the strength she poured into him when she had nothing left to give. And he ended with these words: Sometimes success isn't about what you build. It's about who you carry with you along the way. And I carry her in everything I do, every word, every page, every breath. The video went viral, but that wasn't the point. It wasn't trending because it was flashy. It was trending because it was real, because people are starving for truth, not filters, not perfection, but something that reaches into their chest and says, I know your pain. I've walked with it too. And still, we rise. Eli's audience shifted. It wasn't just about stories now. It was about movement. He started workshops for kids from tough neighborhoods. He gave them tools to speak, to write, to share. He launched a foundation in his mom's name to support single mothers chasing impossible dreams. And one day, he stood again on that community center stage. Older now, but with the same fire. He looked out and said, I used to think success was a finish line. Now I know it's a cycle. What you survive, you pass on what you build. You offer what you learn. You teach. And he told them, your worst day doesn't define you. Your worst choice doesn't lock your future. Your hardest season isn't the end. It might just be the beginning of something unshakable. He stepped off the stage. A kid walked up, maybe 16, baggy hoodie eyes that looked like they hadn't slept in days. He didn't say much, just thank you, and handed Eli a torn notebook. Inside 3 pages of a story row, painful honesty. I nodded, because he knew another voice was rising, and maybe that's what success really is. Not applause, not awards, but the echo you leave behind in someone else's silence. Eli walked out into the cold night, looked up at the sky, and for the first time in a long time, he felt peace, because he understood something. Now you don't chase success, you chase purpose, and purpose always finds A way to light the path, even when it's dark, even when it hurts, even when you're lost, especially when you're lost years past. The world kept moving faster, noisier, colder, in some places louder in others. But Eli remained steady-rooted. His name was now known across platforms. He'd been invited to speak in rooms he once only dreamed about: government summits, tech conferences, television shows. But what people didn't know, what the headlines missed, was what he always kept in his pocket. A folded piece of paper, crumpled, faded. It was the first story he ever wrote, the one he submitted to the podcast all those years ago. He kept it as a reminder of who he was before the world knew his name, before the microphones, before the book deals, before the applause, because he believed something deeply, that the moment you forget your beginning, you lose the weight of your story. Eli's story wasn't built to impress. It was built to impact. One day, he was asked to give the closing speech. At a massive youth summit, 15,000 students, giant stage, lights, cameras. But when he stepped up, he didn't speak with volume. He spoke with quiet fire. He said, "Some of you came here today thinking your story doesn't matter, that your voice is too small, that your pain is too specific, too ugly, too boring to be heard. But let me tell you something. You are not here by accident. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not stuck forever. You are becoming even now, even when it doesn't feel." Like I looked around at the faces, some cheering, some crying, some just staring with wide eyes that looked exactly like his once did. He continued, "The world will try to sell you shortcuts, louder paths, faster ladders. But don't trade your truth for approval, because approval fades, but impact lasts. Then live to be liked, live to be unforgettable. Tell your story, even when your voice shakes, especially when your voice shakes, because someone out there is drowning in silence, waiting for the sound of someone who understands. Let that someone be you. And when you rise, and you will, don't forget to reach back, because real success is never just rising. It's lifting, always lifting." The crowd erupted, but Eli didn't wait for the applause to die. He stepped off the stage, walked into the crowd, shook hands, listened, because that's who he was. Not a celebrity, not a star, but a servant of stories, a boy from a rusted town who turned pain into pages, silence into sound, struggle into strength. And in the final years of his life, when asked what he was most proud of, he didn't mention his books or his awards or his foundation. He smiled and said, "I'm proud I didn't give up when no one was watching, that I kept going when I felt invisible, that I turned darkness into light, not because I had to, but because I knew someone else needed it." If you're listening right now, wherever you are, whatever storm you're walking through, remember this: you don't need perfect circumstances to build a powerful story. You just need the courage to keep showing up. Your pain is not wasted. Your tears are not weakness. They are bricks. They are blueprints. And someday you'll look back and realize that everything you thought was breaking you was actually building you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not done. You are the storm. You are the fire. You are the voice. You are the reason someone else won't quit today. So stand up, breathe deep, and walk forward, because your time is coming. And when it does, then just rise, shine.